What if the person you swore you'd never forgive turned out to be the only one who could save your life? Michael whispered the question to himself as he stood frozen in front of the shop window, staring at the familiar name carved into the wood, Whitmore and Sons. The last time he stood this close to his brother's world, he walked away with clenched fists, a broken heart, and a silence that lasted over a decade. And now here he was, wearing a suit that wasn't his, stitched with memories he had spent years trying to forget. His stomach churned, his breath caught in his throat. Inside that store stood the man he blamed for everything, but outside it stood a father who couldn't keep disappointing his daughter. Ava's voice echoed in his mind. The man in the store said, "You should come thank him." Michael's fingers curled around the business card she had handed him, the words, "We need to talk," burning like fire through his skin. He reached for the door. What happened next would change the course of their lives forever. Stay with us, because what's waiting behind that door is not just a reunion, it's a reckoning. And you won't believe who breaks down first. "Excuse me, miss? You're not allowed to be here," snapped the well-dressed woman behind the counter. Her voice sliced through the silence of the luxury suit boutique like a blade. Emily Turner, assistant manager of Whitmore and Sons Tailoring on Madison Avenue, stared at the little girl standing before her. She couldn't have been more than 7. Her hair was tangled, her face streaked with city grime, and her jeans were worn in 2 sizes too short. But what caught Emily's attention most wasn't her appearance, it was what she carried. In the girl's small arms was a perfectly folded gray suit, and in her other hand, crumpled and sweaty, was a $1 bill. "I'd like to buy this," the girl said quietly, placing the suit on the marble counter as if she were offering gold. Emily blinked, then burst out laughing. "Sweetheart, this suit is worth over $1,000. "Where did you even get it?" "I found it," the girl replied, unwavering. "In the back alley behind your store. It was just lying there. Nothing in this store is ever just lying there." Emily snapped, her tone growing harsher. "You probably stole it, or your parents put you up to this?" "It's for my dad," the girl said, standing taller. "He has a job interview tomorrow. His old suit doesn't fit anymore. I only have $1, but I thought maybe it could help." Emily scoffed. "Kid, $1 doesn't even pay for a button in this place. You need to leave." That was when a deep voice from the back interrupted her. "What's going on out here?" The man who emerged from the office had the presence of someone used to being obeyed. Tall, silver-haired, immaculately dressed Nathaniel Whitmore. The store owner himself stepped toward the counter. "She walked in off the street," Emily explained, flustered. "She's trying to buy a suit with $1. Nathaniel's gaze locked onto the little girl. There was something unnerving about the way she stood, so composed, so resolute, so painfully out of place. Her eyes met his without flinching. He crouched to her level. "What's your name, Ava?" she answered. "Well, Ava," he asked gently, "why do you need this suit?" "It's for my dad," she said. "He's really nervous about his interview. He says this might be his only chance. I want him to look important." Nathaniel took the dollar from her hand. It was damp and wrinkled, but real. He looked again at the suit on the counter. "What's your dad's name?" he asked. "Michael Whitmore." Nathaniel froze. The room went silent. The dollar slipped from his fingers and hit the floor like a thunderclap in the silence. Emily looked confused. Nathaniel's face had gone pale. "Did you say Michael Whitmore?" "Yes," Ava said, her voice suddenly cautious. "Do you know him?" Nathaniel couldn't breathe. Michael was his younger brother. The brother he hadn't seen or spoken to in nearly 11 years. The brother who'd walked out of their family business during a bitter argument about inheritance. The brother who had sworn never to ask for anything again. And now his daughter stood here, dollar in hand, asking for a chance. "Where do you and your dad live?" Nathaniel asked, his voice low. "In a rooming house on 7th and Willow." "It's not very nice," Ava said honestly. "But it's okay, I just wanted to help." He slowly turned to Emily. "Wrap the suit, now." "What but Mr. Whitmore?" "I said wrap it. She's taking it." Emily obeyed, baffled. Nathaniel leaned toward Ava and pulled a card from his pocket. He scribbled something on the back. "Give this to your father. Tell him it's a gift. And tell him I said we need to talk." Ava's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" "Yes." "And my dollar?" Nathaniel looked at it lying on the floor, then gently picked it up and pressed it back into her palm. "You're going to need this more than I do." Ava grinned for the first time and clutched the wrapped suit to her chest. "Thank you. He's going to be so happy." As she skipped out the door, Nathaniel remained still staring at the glass, watching her vanish into the crowd like a small spark of light. Emily approached slowly. "Sir, who was that, my past?" Nathaniel said softly, coming back to knock. He stood by the window long after she left. His mind raced. That suit, that girl, none of it made sense. And yet everything did. He hadn't heard Michael's name in years, had forced himself to forget the betrayal, the shouting the night Michael left taking company funds and walking away like the business and the family meant nothing. And yet now his daughter had come here clean, innocent, holding on to hope with nothing but $1 in a folded suit. That night Nathaniel couldn't sleep. Something gnawed at him. Around 10 p.m., he pulled out his coat and told Emily, "Close the store tomorrow morning. We're making a stop first." The next morning they pulled up to the address Ava had mentioned. It was worse than he expected. Peeling paint, a flickering hallway light, a front porch sagging under its own weight. And then through the window of a second-floor unit, he saw her, Ava, pouring cereal into a cracked bowl. Behind her, a tired-looking man in a wrinkled shirt sat rubbing his temples. Even from a distance, Nathaniel recognized the posture, the jawline, the way he used to lean when thinking. It was Michael. Nathaniel said nothing. He just watched the years crashing down like waves. The resentment, the silence, the wounds. But now, there was Ava, and somehow that changed everything. What would you have done if your brother's child walked into your life asking for help after a decade of silence? Would you turn your back or offer a second chance? If this part of the story touched you, don't forget to like the video and show us some love. And tell us in the comments, do you believe family wounds can truly heal over time? Michael hadn't worn a real suit in years. The last time he had slipped into something tailored, he still had a savings account, a marriage, and a steady job. But now, standing in front of a cracked bathroom mirror, he barely recognized the man staring back at him. He tugged awkwardly at the sleeves of the jacket Ava had given him the night before. It fit perfectly, too perfectly. The fabric felt like a promise he didn't believe in anymore. Daddy Ava's voice rang out from the other room. "Are you ready? You look like a movie star." Michael tried to smile, almost baby, but inside he was unraveling. His fingers trembled as he buttoned the suit. How had Ava gotten it? And the card he'd read it over and over. "This suit is a gift. Tell your father we need to talk." Nathaniel Whitmore. That name was a weight. The last time he saw Nathaniel was 11 years ago, during a fight that ended their family. Harsh words slammed doors and betrayal. He had left that night with more anger than direction. Now it seemed fate or a 7-year-old girl had pulled the past back into the present. He considered skipping the interview, just staying home. But then Ava peeked around the door with her crooked smile and hopeful eyes. "You look like you could do anything, Daddy." He swallowed the lump in his throat. "Let's make today count." The interview was a blur. Polite smiles, standard questions, the usual polite dismissal, "We'll let you know in a week." Michael nodded, knowing what that meant. He stepped outside into the sunlight, defeated. His feet carried him past familiar blocks until he stopped without even realizing it in front of Whitmore and Sons. Through the glass, he saw Nathaniel at the counter. A part of him screamed to turn and leave. Pride, pain, everything from the past boiled beneath his skin. But then he remembered Ava, her hands on that suit, her tiny voice saying, "The man in the store said we should thank him." So he stepped forward. Just as he reached for the handle, the door opened. Nathaniel stood there, his eyes unreadable. Michael. The sound of his name, spoken by his brother's voice, was a punch to the gut. "Hi," Michael said flatly, his voice stiff. "I'm here to say thank you and to return the suit. I can't keep something I can't pay for." "You're not returning anything," Nathaniel replied. "Come in. We need to talk." Michael hesitated, but then he stepped inside. The air smelled like clean fabric, wood polish, and money. So much had changed, and yet nothing had. The shop was a time capsule. Nathaniel motioned for Emily to take a break. They were alone. For a moment, neither spoke. Then it began. "You haven't changed," Michael said. "Still got that king of the world look. And you still act like the world owes you something." Nathaniel replied sharply. Michael laughed bitterly. "Right. There it is. 10 seconds in, and we're back to being enemies." "We were never enemies," Nathaniel said. "Just stubborn idiots who let ego ruin everything." Michael's jaw tightened. "You think I wanted to walk away, that I enjoyed leaving with nothing?" "You didn't leave with nothing," Nathaniel snapped. "You took $50,000 and half of Dad's designs. I took what I helped build." Michael growled. "But you took everything else." Silence. The tension in the room was a living thing. "Then Dad died," Nathaniel said quietly. 3 years ago. Cancer." Michael staggered back like he'd been hit. "What he asked for you at the end," Nathaniel added. "But I had no idea where you were." Michael's voice broke. "Why didn't you try harder to find me? Why didn't you come back?" Nathaniel countered. Neither had an answer. The front door jingled. Both turned. Ava rushed in her backpack, bouncing on her shoulder. "Daddy, how did the interview go? Did you tell the nice man thank you?" She froze, sensing the tension. Nathaniel crouched to meet her. "How was school?" "We learned about family trees today," she said proudly. "I said I have a dad, and now a real-life uncle." Michael flushed. "Ava, I didn't know," she continued innocently, "that you two were brothers, but you should be friends. That's what brothers do." The silence returned, but it was different this time. Softer, more human. Nathaniel stood. "You're right. Brothers should be friends." He turned to Michael. "Look, this store, it's always catered to rich people. People like us. But lately I've been thinking, what about everyone else? What about people like you?" Michael narrowed his eyes. "What are you getting at?" "I want to start a new line," Nathaniel said. "Affordable, dignified suits for people who need a chance. I want you to help me build it." Michael blinked. "You're offering me a job. I'm offering you a second chance." Michael's mind raced. Every instinct screamed, don't trust him. But Ava was looking at him like this offer was the answer to every bedtime wish she'd ever whispered. He took a long breath. "And what would I have to do?" "Start by showing up tomorrow." 8 a.m. Michael glanced down at Ava. Her eyes sparkled. She whispered, "Please say yes." He nodded slowly. "All right, I'll come." Nathaniel extended his hand. "Welcome home, brother." Michael hesitated, then shook it. From the doorway, Emily watched in awe. She couldn't hear the words, but she could feel the air shift. Something broken had started to heal. And outside, unnoticed, the clouds parted just enough for sunlight to fall on the name above the door. We're sorry to pause the story here, but what do you think? Can years of silence and pain really be undone in a single handshake? Let us know in the comments, and if this story is reaching your heart, don't forget to like the video and show your support. By the time the sun peeked over the rooftops of the city the next morning, Michael was already unlocking the front door of Whitmore & Sons. The air inside still held that same scent of expensive fabric and fresh wood, but now it carried something new possibility. Nathaniel was already at the back table, sleeves rolled, sorting through fabric samples and sketches. No suit, no stiffness, just a man who for the first time in a long time looked like he'd slept peacefully. "Thought I'd be the first one," Michael said as he entered. Nathaniel didn't look up. "You're late. By 5 minutes." Michael chuckled and tossed his jacket over a chair. "You always this fun at dawn?" "No," Nathaniel replied, finally glancing up. "Only when I'm building something that matters." Michael stared at the sketches, simplified designs, neutral colors, functional cuts. These weren't suits for power. They were suits for survival with dignity. "You really want to do this?" Michael asked. "Make suits for guys like me." Nathaniel folded one swatch of navy blue wool. "Not just want. I need to." Michael watched him carefully. Why? Nathaniel took a moment. "Because a little girl walked into my store with $1 and more courage than most men I've met. Because she reminded me who we used to be before ego got in the way. And because, if you can forgive me, then maybe I can forgive myself too." That day they sketched late into the afternoon. They argued about materials. They tested machines. They rethreaded the old sewing machine their father had left behind, still humming, still stubborn, like it remembered every stitch the brothers had forgotten. When Ava arrived after school, she found them covered in fabric dust, laughing over a crooked seam. "Is this what teamwork looks like?" she asked with a grin. Nathaniel turned to her. "No, this is what family looks like." That night, Michael walked Ava home through quiet streets. She skipped ahead, singing a made-up song about suits that change lives and uncles who sew. He watched her and realized something that hit him like a slow, steady wave. He wasn't just surviving anymore, he was living. Weeks passed. The new line named Roots launched quietly. No flashy marketing, no celebrity endorsements, just word-of-mouth, honest tailoring, and suits that fit the stories of those who wore them. A man bought a suit for his first job in 3 years. A woman purchased one for her son's graduation photos. A single dad came in trembling, saying, "I've never worn a suit in my life. This is for my daughter's wedding." Each time Michael took the measurements himself. Each time Nathaniel stood quietly in the back, watching him work like their father once had. Then one afternoon, Ava came running into the store waving a piece of paper. "My essay got published." Michael took the paper, brow furrowing. "What essay?" "The one I wrote for class. About how I have 2 dads, now my real dad, and the one who gave him a chance again." Nathaniel read over his shoulder, stunned. The essay was titled, "Family Isn't Just Blood, It's Belief." A week later, a local newspaper picked it up. Soon after, a radio host invited Michael and Nathaniel on for a short segment. The orders tripled, but none of that compared to what happened one rainy Friday afternoon. A man in his 50s entered the store holding an old Roots tag. "I wore this suit to a job interview 3 months ago," he said, voice shaking. "Got the job. I haven't felt like myself in years until I put this on." Michael looked at Nathaniel, throat tight. Neither spoke. They didn't need to, because in that moment they both knew this was their father's legacy, not the money, not the fight, but this, the dignity they were passing on, one stitch at a time. 6 months later, Whitmore & Sons expanded. A second store opened in a nearby neighborhood. Michael managed it. Ava helped design the kids' corner. Nathaniel started seeing someone, Patricia, a warm-hearted school counselor, who had once bought a suit for a student who couldn't afford prom. On a slow Tuesday evening, the 3 of them, Michael, Nathaniel, and Ava, sat around the old cutting table eating pizza. "You know," Michael said between bites, "I used to think forgiveness was about letting someone off the hook." "It's not," Nathaniel asked. "No," Michael said. "It's about letting yourself breathe again." Nathaniel leaned back. "I'm glad you did. I don't know what I'd do without this." "Whatever this is," Ava pointed at them. "It's family." Michael laughed. "Didn't we teach her that?" Nathaniel nodded. "No, she taught us." That night, after Ava was tucked into bed and the store lights were dimmed, Michael stepped outside. The city buzzed softly beneath the stars. In the reflection of the shop window, he saw himself not broken, not angry, but whole. The past hadn't vanished, but for the first time it no longer held him captive. Now he was part of something greater, and it had started with $1. If you were in Michael's shoes, could you have set your pride aside for the people you love? And do you think forgiveness is something we choose, or something that chooses us when we're finally ready? What did you think of this story? If it moved you, type number 3 in the comments. Type number 1 if you feel there's something missing, or number 2 if it felt just okay. We'd also love to know, what country are you watching from? If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and send it to someone who needs a reminder that it's never too late to forgive or to start again.